So today I want to talk about divination, what it is, what it isn't, and how I use it in my work. Our mind is a powerful tool, and if we use it wisely, we can achieve many things in life that would otherwise be impossible. However, the mind can also take control of our lives and end up being a powerful restrictive force that stops us from reaching our full potential, takes us down paths in our lives that don't actually serve us, and locks us into beliefs and patterns of behavior that take us further and further away from walking the path of our heart and living authentically. The idea that our mind can know everything we need to know, can access all the information that is available to us and that is valuable to us, and that we can somehow think or analyze, evaluate, investigate, explore things with our mind and come up with the actual truth of every situation when we face in our lives is just ludicrous. And this is for me, one of the limitations of the whole positive thinking movement, when they say, what we can conceive and believe we can achieve. Well, that's just not true. Our mind uses knowledge that it has acquired from the experiences we've had, the things we've consciously gone about learning, and the insights that journey has brought us. And that's why it is limited. When we come across a new experience with no previously familiar context, the mind has nothing to work with. It has nothing to base its evaluation upon. So the answers it tries to offer us when we ask, what should I do, or what is this? It has to be based on what it has known before. So it puts new experiences, new landscapes, new situations into a box. It tries to force it into a box that is formed of the things we've done and known before. And so by definition, it cannot know or access everything that new experience or situation has to offer, because it's taking things away from it that it can't compute. If it can't compute it and doesn't understand it and doesn't make sense of it, it just pushes it aside, invalidates it, leaves it out, or somehow dismisses it as not being important. When we look at the true, authentic creative process, whether it's in art or music or science or business, the truly inspirational new ideas, they always seem to come from somewhere else. They come from outside our past experience. That's how the first seeds are sown for what ends up creating a paradigm shift, a movement from where we have previously been and the path we've always walked to something completely new, which we couldn't foresee and didn't anticipate. That inspiration, that new creative seed, comes from somewhere outside our current system, our current context, our current knowing that our mind cultivates and holds. When we engage in the process of divination, we actively and consciously say, we would like to access information, wisdom, whatever it is we need from beyond where we've already been. We want to go behind the veil of our current experience. We want to literally enter into the great mystery where our mind cannot go. And from that place, from that unknown place, see if we can draw some insight, some understanding, some intuitive message that can then be used to guide us and inform us upon our deeper spiritual journey, which in the end will generally be illogical and irrational to our conscious mind. It is often during times of stress, confusion, uncertainty, when we feel we are stumbling around in the darkness and need some guidance that we cannot find within ourselves, that we seek to divine our way forward. We use some sort of divination tool to help us see what we have not yet seen and to know what it is we need to know in that dark, uncertain, perhaps confusing place. This was indeed how I first set upon this journey of understanding how divination can work and then using it in my own work for my own benefit, but also for the benefit of others that accompany on the journey. I was at a particularly difficult stage of my life. Many aspects of that life felt like they were falling apart. I had no firm stepping stones upon which to stand. Everything felt like it was moving. And I just needed something to guide me forward in a place where nothing felt real and nothing gave me any certainty or sense of security. So I walked out into nature in an altered state. And, we all change our state all the time throughout each day. It's not something that is in itself mystical or mysterious. It's our mind, our emotions, our soul, our body that are always interacting with each other and moving through different expressions of themselves that feel different and that are open to different influences, different impacts from our outside environment. And on this particular day, this combination of my different states had rendered me vulnerable and very open to what the outer landscape had to say. I didn't consciously think of it in that way, but as I walked through that national park, feeling dark, depressed, anxious and despairing, when I looked around, I could sense that there were things in that natural environment that had things to tell me if I was willing to listen. So I listened. A basic shamanic principle, and this is one we find through the symbolism of the East, where the sun rising, the dawn sun, represents a burnished mirror which reflects back in the outer world everything that is going on in our inner world. The outer landscape reflects our inner landscape. And so as I walked through this park on that day, everything in that natural landscape was a reflection of something that was inside of me. And over time, things appeared in that outer landscape, seemed to speak to me, to inform me, to tell me things, to show me things that seemed like a revelation, something that I just couldn't have thought of myself. But in hindsight, I look back and those symbols, those guides that appeared were just reflecting a different perspective of my inner landscape in a way that I could understand something different about it, see something different about it, that in fact showed me another way to deal with it, to respond to it, and gave me different choices that I didn't have before. In the shape of an old dead tree, I saw forms that brought to my mind an idea, a possibility of what was going on in my situation that I hadn't realized before. It was a light bulb moment. And then a bird would appear, clearly wanting my attention. And to me, in the past, it had just been a bird. It was a raven. But suddenly, it was a messenger. And its presence and how it was there with me and how it spoke, again, opened up a new possibility of understanding that didn't exist before. These symbolic messengers became a bridge between my current reality and something else. It connected me with the great mystery, and it brought these two landscapes of my inner world and outer world together and showed me a different perspective that if I wished, I could use to now navigate through my physical landscape, my outer world, on things that I had no idea what to do or even what it meant for me. Suddenly, clarity emerged. New possibilities made themselves available to me. And intuitively, I knew what I had to do next. And this seemed astonishing to me. Where had this information come from? It wasn't from my mind. And that is a question that people who doubt what divination can offer us, it's a question they always ask. Like, so where do you think these answers, this guidance is coming from? After my experience in the park, where the messengers of nature had genuinely spoken to me, I knew that it was important to be able to use that experience when I needed guidance in the future. I knew that I couldn't always go out into the park when I needed an answer to a question. So I thought there are tools that people use to bring that divinationary experience into a more practical context that fits with our 21st century lifestyle. People use tarot cards, they use palm readings, rune readings, they read bones, they read tea leaves. All of these things are tools that allow people to access that wisdom that flows from the great mystery. Some people say it comes directly from God or Great Spirit. Others believe it is their guardian angels or their own spirit guides. Some believe it is their own animal totem, perhaps. Some angelic beings. For me, in the end, it doesn't matter. What we believe is bringing us the guidance, where we imagine or believe it comes from. The thing is that if we truly understand that when we come to this place in nature, we are coming home, not just visiting, and that we belong here just as much as every rock and tree and stick and bird and animal, it makes sense that the interconnectedness of everything that is here is available to us as well. And just like that first time when I was out in nature, and I felt that everything out there was a reflection of everything in here. When I come out here now, it's exactly the same, and I believe, I know that wherever the guidance is coming from, whatever the great mystery actually is, the wisdom that is available to me here flows through nature, its messengers, and the symbols of this landscape, which I use now in my readings to take this natural landscape into a setting that we can use for guidance when we can't be out here. And that's my medicine cards. But everything that comes to me in terms of guidance, intuitive wisdom, anything that I come to understand that wasn't in me before flows to me through nature. And if I don't come out here, it becomes really hard to find that deep connection with the great mystery. So I looked into using something like tarot cards, because the ancient, very traditional mysticism around that system, it appealed to me. But when I started looking into it and using them, the symbols themselves, I felt a real disconnect. They didn't speak to me, and I had to rely on the person doing the reading for me or the book that told me what each symbol meant. It became really clear to me that if I was going to do divination as a practice, as part of my shamanic practice, I needed to use a tool that had come through me, that spoke to me directly, and that I had a really strong connection with. Otherwise, it would feel inauthentic, and what I offered the people who I would give a reading to was just going to be coming out of my head. And that's not what divination is about. And that's why it's so hard, I believe, to find people who give really authentic readings, because a lot of the time their connection with their tool isn't personal. They may honor the system that they use and be very respectful of that, but the depth of connection with the tool that they use isn't personal. So I decided I would create a set of medicine cards, and the cards would have the symbols, the totems, the landscapes, the plants, the animals that lived in the landscape in which I lived. And they were the same ones who would come and talk to me when I went out into the park, into nature. So when I couldn't go out into the park, or I was doing a reading for someone else, and we couldn't journey there together, I could still call upon those same messengers, those same totems, to inform and guide us, because their connection with me and through me was personal and authentic. And so over a period of time, I would go out into nature and literally say to that landscape around me, who has something to say? Who needs to be part of this tool? Who will be the messengers that come to speak to those who are willing and wishing to take a journey through this landscape, through this mythological landscape, through this symbolic landscape? And over time, the cards became, they informed me that I need to be in this tool. in this shamanic divination tool. And so over time, the messengers and the totems and the guides that had something to say in the landscape in which I journeyed came forward and let me know that they needed a card in my medicine card deck. And so came the eagle and the dingo, the kookaburra, landscapes like the mountain and the desert, significant messengers that are insects like bees and the butterfly, elemental forces, lightning and fire, and the great totems of the moon, the sun, and many others. Some came forward and didn't tell me what their message was. I just had to trust that, okay, I need to create a card for this animal, but I didn't know what its message was because it hadn't told me yet. And over time, they informed me. So later on when I did a reading, I could inform the person having the reading what the primary core message of each totem and symbol was. It became clear that the readings I was being called to do needed to occur as part of a ceremonial journey. So I painted an Australian dreaming wheel with houses that represented different aspects of our humanity, the elements, the seasons, the time of day, and many other aspects of the landscape through which we move. And that then became a fundamental way of connecting, again, even deeper with the divinationary process. It gave us more opportunity to discover really, really intimately and personally what was going on and what this outer landscape was trying to reflect back to us so we could understand and gain a perspective that we couldn't previously have. It gave us a glimpse of what was happening in the great mystery, behind the veil of our conscious reality. My ancestry is Estonian, and much of my work now is with people who live in the Northern Hemisphere. So I have created a northern wheel, a northern medicine wheel, upon which I do readings for people who live in the north. And they have different messengers. Some are the same. They also have an eagle, but it is a different eagle. They also have a raven. They have a similar story to the ravens here in Australia. They still have solar eclipses, but other great totems now show themselves in the north. The bear, the wolf, the northern lights. The totems, the symbols, the landscapes, the plants, everything that emerges in a reading needs to be as personal as possible in order to allow the deepest connection with the great mystery. And so I don't use the northern cards here in Australia, unless someone particularly wants a different perspective on things. I don't use the southern cards for people in the north. Again, the connection with our own land, where we are, a connection with our own ancestors, where we come from, are both really important. And if we can have those aligned, the divination is always deeper and more authentic. One of my own great teachers is a man who is a white South African. And before he emigrated here to Australia, he was trained in the Sangoma tradition. And this is an apprenticeship that spans many years. It is a full commitment of one's life is given over to your teacher, who is an experienced Sangoma himself. And they direct you, lead you, guide you, teach you in every aspect of how to live as an authentic shaman in that tradition. And my teacher tells the story of the very first day of his training. He'd been unexpectedly thrown into this path, and he arrived at the home of his older teacher. And the teacher told him that he had some clients coming, some people from the village who were coming to have readings, and he used bones. He threw bones, and he would read the bones to tell them what they needed to know, in some cases perhaps their future. And the Sangoma said, I have to go out now, so I want you to do the readings for the people that are coming in a few minutes. And my teacher said, but I don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. And the Sangoma shaman said, that doesn't matter. When they come in, throw the bones on the floor. And whatever comes to you, speak that. Speak only that. And speak all of that without hesitation. Speak it all, speak nothing else, speak it without hesitation. That is how you read the bones. This has stuck with me so profoundly, and it is a big influence in how I do my own readings, because I know that if I am going to give my client, or the person that I'm doing the reading for, the most authentic reading I can, the most real representation of the story coming to them from the great mystery, I must do the same. I must speak whatever comes, even if I fear that they won't like it, or that it will upset them, or that they won't like me and never come back. It's not about keeping them happy, it's about the truth that comes through me now. And, I'm not a psychic medium. I use the tools, which are my cards, and each messenger there brings its story to the journey around the wheel. And I relay that story truthfully and authentically. And then in the moment of my speaking, I ask that messenger, what else have you come to tell us today? And it might relate to something else that we find in the house from which that messenger comes, something about the element of that direction, or the time of our lives, or the aspect of our humanity, or the season. Or it might be something very specific that just wants to come through. And when we complete the reading, I always tell the client that go away and don't think about what we've just done, what you've just heard. Sit with it quietly for days if necessary, and let the messengers that came speak to you more. Keep asking them, what else have you come to tell me? Don't just take what I told you as the story of the reading. I've given you a framework. I've given you the basic story that these symbols hold, carry, and bring in this landscape. But they will always have more for you personally. Always. And similarly, that's what we do when we go out into nature. And some messenger comes. If an eagle comes down, and that's an unusual thing where we live perhaps, and it draws our attention, and it says to us through its behavior, through how it appears or what it does, I have something to tell you, then we listen. And we ask any messenger that comes, what have you come to tell me today? If you see an eagle, don't try and remember what you read in a book about what the symbolism of an eagle means. Don't try and remember what a Native American said an eagle means, or a South American shaman, or someone else in a podcast or a YouTube video. In their landscape, in the world that they move in, they may have a specific story that the eagle holds for them. And if you walk the path with them in that landscape, then it also relates to you. But always, the personal connection with the symbol, the messenger, will inform you more deeply and more authentically if we are open to receive what it has come to tell us today, and not try and let our mind remember or what it should be, or try and direct us on, what someone else has said it is. That's not how divination works. That's the mind trying to take control of the process. One final thing. A lot of people go have a card reading or a palm reading or a rune reading because it's a lot of fun. And no matter what we get told, our mind again will try and put that information into a box, into a context, try and fit it into our existing experience or understanding so we can relate to it. And that's why we always feel like that there is something in that reading for us. And we come out saying, yeah, that was really accurate because, what he or she said about this aspect of my life, this is actually what's going on. And that's because our mind needs to make the connections in order to stay in control of something that is fundamentally outside its control. If we really want authentic, real guidance through some form of divination, then we need to be willing to shut our mind down, not go in there with a question, seeking some guidance about a particular thing, but opening ourselves up to whatever comes. Because what we need to know, what we need to see, and that is sitting there in the great mystery waiting for us, might not be what we're thinking about or what we want to know. It might be something altogether different. So we need to wipe our slate clean, open up ourselves to whatever comes, and take the basic question to the great mystery. Help me to know what it is I need to know today. Help me to see what I do not yet see. And then surrender to the journey. If you are in a place yourself, a time in your life where you feel that a journey around the medicine wheel or the dreaming wheel and undertaking a process of divination might give you the guidance you need, one thing I offer through my work is a medicine card reading, which I film like this and then upload to YouTube, and then forward a link to you, a private link that no one else can see, so you can take that journey yourself with me and be informed in a deeply personal and authentic way. The journey comes with an introduction that shows you the preparation I do ceremonially before I do each reading, and then the reading itself takes us around the wheel. We place a card in each of the 12 houses around the outside of the wheel, and then one in the center. The reading itself takes around about an hour or so, and it is very comprehensive and it is personalized. If you are interested in receiving such a reading, then you can make contact with me through the Way of Medicine Facebook page. You can personally message me through Messenger, and we can arrange to have that reading for you. Thank you for your support. Journey well.